Hi, everyone. I'm Nitya, and I'm going to be talking about this incredibly cool thing called graphic recording. What it is, why I am madly in love with it, and why you should even care. So let's get started. Graphic recording is a form of visual note-taking. But three things really make graphic recording unique. A, it happens in a group setting, for example, this one. B, it happens live, that is while the conversation takes place. And C, it happens on this incredibly large sheet of paper. Now, graphic recorders listen to conversations, and then they use words and pictures to create a mural of what they hear, and they reflect that back to the group in real time. Now, there's one thing important that you should remember. A graphic recorder is not an artist. It's really not about locking yourself up in the basement and creating this brilliant visual masterpiece from your imagination. It's about using very simple lines and shapes to convey meanings. So yes, you can do it. Now, I've been graphic recording for a little more than 2 years, and it's been a fabulous journey so far. And along this journey, I've had some big aha moments that I'd love to share with you. In fact, this is how I had my first insight. I was working with this group at the Portland State University, and it was lunchtime, and a lot of people came up to look at my visuals, and I stood there like a fool, preening, and hoping that they tell me that I was incredibly cool. That didn't happen. No one told me I was cool. Instead, they came up to me and said, "We can't believe that you were actually listening to everything we said." And that, for me, was a big insight. It wasn't really about me. It wasn't even about the visuals. It was about listening. And it turns out that when someone shoots down your idea in a public forum, the emotional center of your brain right here feels incredibly threatened. Your brain jumps into that fight or flight mode, and you actually stop thinking. On the other hand, when there's a graphic recorder in the room who's listening and drawing, people start to feel safe and acknowledged. They speak up more, they collaborate more, and that's really where the creative magic is. Now, another interesting thing happens when you graphic record. People literally see the big picture. So they see their idea, but they also see how their idea fits in with everything else. And that kind of systemic or big picture thinking really makes a group smarter. Now, you'll also notice that after a typical meeting, say 3 days later, you ask someone what happened at the meeting. Most probably, they'll tell you about the food that was good or the wine that was really bad. But in terms of content, most people just remember 10%. On the other hand, when a graphic recorder creates visuals to reinforce the auditory content, this percentage jumps up to 65%. And this is called the picture superiority effect. And lastly, what happens to these pictures after the event? What happens is that the large visual charts get digitized and then can be used to share insight with people who weren't in the room that day. So this was about graphic recording and how it helps to change a group. Now, as a graphic recorder, I also began to pay attention to my own brain, and I noticed that whenever I drew, my own retention and comprehension of the subject matter really increased. One thing I noticed was kind of unexpected, though. I suddenly began to see connections everywhere. For example, it suddenly became clear to me how insights from a group talking about corporate marketing strategy could really help another group sitting down to redesign state education. And this is how I visualize this cross-pollination. Ideas are like rabbits. And these rabbits from very diverse conversations all jump into my head and make love to each other in there. And before you know it, you have a dozen new babies. And the scientific terminology for this kind of thinking is called pattern thinking. And this ability to put together seemingly unrelated things is a foundational skill for innovation. So to conclude, here's what you can do if you want to experiment with graphic recording. Start building your visual vocabulary. Pay attention to words that you hear very often in your workplace, and start collecting simple visual symbols to represent them. And lastly, don't wait for permission. A lot of people wait for someone else to come and tell them that they're good enough to be a graphic recorder. Newsflash, that's never going to happen. So my suggestion is pick up a Sharpie and give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to draw and have fun. And I know this audience loves Venn diagrams, so this is my visualization of what a great audience is. Thank you very much.